Hey you guys, it's Elle and happy Foundation Friday. So we're going to be doing a foundation tip today instead of a certain foundation. Next week, please stay tuned though because we will be trying out the new Natasha Denona matte foundation. But today we're going to be talking about how to customize a matte foundation since there are so many out there. They really look beautiful on the skin, but sometimes they don't do great things for people that even have combination normal or dry skin. So we're going to be talking about customizing that matte foundation today. So if you want to know more about that, hit the subscribe button and let's do it. All right, so when I asked in my glowing primers video if you guys wanted to see a tutorial on how to customize a matte foundation, that you guys were like so into that. So I thought I would do that this week instead of the Natasha Denona. So let's get into that. So the reason why I like to customize matte foundations sometimes is I might have bought it. So for example, the Laura Mercier Candlelight, her newer foundation, I like it, but it is super matte on me. Or I really enjoy the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte, but it is way too matte, and I have normal to dry skin, and it just looks so flat on me. And I know a lot of people love matte foundations because they are so pore blurring, they actually blur texture, obviously oil control. So that is kind of what I wanted to talk about, is customizing a matte foundation, because I also talk about people that have combination skin. You want to bring this to be matte in here and then luminous around the edges, and the only really way to do that is to use a matte foundation and customize it like we're doing today. So what we're going to start out with is a hydrating primer. So for me, I use a hydrating primer. I'm just using the Guerlain primer. You can use any primer you want. I use the Too Faced Hangover primer a lot. The Tatcha primer would be great. The Ren Perfect Canvas would be fantastic as well. And especially the Ren Perfect Canvas would be fantastic if you have more combination to oily skin, normal skin. That's the primer I would use. All right, so I use this one because of the anti-aging benefits in it, as well as it's just a hydrator. So if you have more dry to normal skin, use a hydrating primer to give some of that hydration first, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I love to usually use the Becca Backlight Priming Filter, the Physicians Formula Spotlight Primer, but I want to do something different that we don't talk about a lot, which is the Sephora Beauty Amplifier. It is fantastic. The price is really good, and it is gorgeous on the skin. It's a beautiful illuminating primer. So what I do is I take a little bit of the primer. I like this primer because it's like golden. I take a little bit of the primer and I will prep right here on the tops of my cheeks where I want this to be a little bit more glowy. And you can put it here if you want to too. All right, so that is prepped first. All right, so for this next step, I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. Like I said, though, I love to do this with the Laura Mercier foundation. I love to do this with the Milk Blur foundation as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of the foundation on the back of my hand. I am going to take a little bit of the primer, okay? And I'm just going to mix them together. I take probably, I would say, more foundation than the glowing primer. And it just depends upon how absolutely dry you are, but that it seems to be a good kind of ratio for me. So kind of a dollop of foundation and maybe like a third of the primer. And what I'm going to do is, you're going to see, I'm going to apply this to the outside perimeter of my face, and I'm going to leave the center of my face free of this concoction first, okay? And you'll see why. I like to use a damp beauty blender because this foundation can use all the hydration that it needs, or that it can get. And then I just do a light layer of foundation all over the skin in the places that I want it to be more luminous. And if you want a higher concentration, so using a primer will shear out your foundation as well as using a damp tool. So if you want a more heavier coverage, just go in with some more layers. All right, so now I'm just going to take the rest of what's on my hand and just build up around here because I like this to be a little bit more covered. All right, so you can see that that matte foundation looks beautiful on the skin. It is not overly glowy, but it definitely has a nice skin shift to it. So now I'm going to take a little bit of the foundation all by itself, no primer, and I'm actually going to apply it in the center of my face because this portion of my face has a tendency to sometimes be a little bit more glowy, and this is very true for a lot of people. So I like to keep the center of my face a little bit more matte and add in glow if I really, really want to, okay? And this also will help with oil control because if you are more combination oily, you don't want the center of your skin, the center of your face to be super, super glowy, all right? Because you're gonna get there no matter what. So then that is basically a very light wash of a very matte foundation, but customized to give a radiant finish. But the center of the face, can you tell this is all glowy and dewy, and the center of the face is very matte, all right? So this is kind of like gonna be a little foundation hack. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit more of the primer and the foundation, and I just want a little bit more coverage here just because this is where all my issues are. And you know what's nice about doing this is usually matte foundations are a lot more long wearing, and so by customizing a matte foundation to make it more glowy and dewy is that you won't have to powder as much, especially not the center of the face if you are more normal to dry, and you just will have to use less powder and the skin will look more refreshed and it will last a lot longer because of the formula that naturally, you know, matte foundations have. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put a little bit of concealer on and I'll be right back. All right, so my concealer is on, and another way just to kind of really enhance this glow in the skin is either to put your highlighter on and the high points of your face, but what I like to do is take a little bit of the Beauty Amplifier by Sephora, and I have not powdered anything yet, by the way, and I will just take a little bit right on top of this area right here in a C shape. So you see how that has given that a really nice, very subtle, natural glow. Okay, so now if you are more combination normal, you can set your face with whatever powder you normally use, but if you are more normal to dry and you're doing this technique, this is the time that you will use your illuminizing powder. So pick your favorite. I'm going to use something different today because I always use the Hourglass one, but I'm going to be using the Haze powder from Stellar because I think this is a stellar product. It's so funny. I'm going to take the illuminizing powder and I'm going to just set under the eye right here. And I'm not going to set that cream highlighter or that cream, you can really see it there. I'm not going to set that cream illuminizer. And then I will take a brush, bigger brush, and start to kind of just buff this perimeter out a little bit. I'm not going to set the center of my face. And then you can either leave it like this, because this is a really great finish to the skin. This is a matte foundation. It feels really lightweight, but it still has a beautiful shift to it, very natural. But I always like to give this a great kind of hydrating spray. I obviously am using the Tatcha Dewy Skin Mist. You can use your favorite rehydrating spray. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a setting spray with alcohol because it's just going to dry everything up. I would recommend a rehydrating spray. So, and then that's basically it. Do you see how pretty the skin looks? And then of course, now knowing me, I would end up using some more glowy products as far as bronzers and blushes, just because everything is so matte, but that is going to be up to you. All right, so I just popped on some blush and a little bit of a gloss, but I hope that this is helpful for you guys to know that if you even have a matte foundation, you can still use it, you can still customize it to make it really work for you, because there are so many benefits to a matte foundation that not necessarily a glowy foundation actually has. So that's just something to consider for sure, is just the benefits that come along with a more matte foundation, because you can still get, you know, this glowing radiant skin even with a matte foundation. And if you guys have not tried the Beauty Amplifier from Sephora, it is a fantastic, fantastic illuminizing primer. I actually can't believe I forgot to talk about it in that video. It's one of those that I actually reach for, and actually is in my personal kit, or my professional kit. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Lots of love from me to you. Mwah. Bye, guys. And if you stay to the end, a little extra tip is, if you are more combination normal and you do notice that you have a little bit of shininess throughout here, throughout the day, when you're using a rehydrating spray, make sure you only spray the sides of your face, so like this. And then you don't have to, I mean, it might get in the middle a little bit, but that way you can get this glow and really make sure the powder is, you know, powder down and into the skin, and that way you're not affecting the center of your face and giving you too much glow too early. So that's just a little tip for you. All right, thanks guys, bye.